How many people are talking right now?
No, I heard that weird feedback. It sounded like a kid.
I thought it
Yeah.
was
I
somebody's
I did
kid.
too.
I thought that was Kaya.
Who's
No,
playing
I'm
the
in the
live?
kitchen.
That's
Nobody.
you, Jamie. Jamie, do yours.
It is her.
That's you, Jamie.
Hi.
What the hell is happening? I just opened Facebook and the live started. I'm like,
What,
who
right now?
is that?
Oh.
Hello and welcome to Table for Five with no reservations. Take a seat at the table for a fresh, sweet, salty tart, and pleasantly bitter conversation. This episode is brought to you by Sensational You. As moms to autistic individuals, we here at the table know all too well the struggle to find clothes that work for our children. That is why we are excited to be teaming up with Sensational You. They are a new company that is here to make the fashion industry more inclusive because every child is unique and should be celebrated. Sensational You believes that clothing helps children to discover and express who they are as individuals and takes this one step further by meeting their functional needs as well. They have items like stimuli-reducing hoodies, sensory-friendly joggers, compression-lined tees, and much more. Everything is guaranteed to have no tags and flat seams. Perfect for our kids. Check them out at shopsensationalu.com and use code TABLEFOR5 for free shipping. Shopsensationalu.com and use code TABLEFOR5, all one word, for free shipping. Sensational You, because fashion is for all.
Hello, thank you for taking a seat at the table. Tonight we have a special guest, Stacy Yildiz. She has an autistic daughter and she wrote a book about inclusion, so we're going to be chatting with her tonight. So Jen,
Hello.
Tabitha,
Hello.
Rachel,
Hey, everyone.
Jamie,
Hi.
Stacy,
Hi,
and I'm Kim. Stacy, do you want to tell us about yourself?
my name is Stacy Yildiz, and I have a daughter, Alicy, who is 6 and nonverbal. She's a little spitfire, and she has taught me so much. So my whole inspiration kind of behind my story was her.
You're a teacher, is that correct? A kindergarten teacher?
Yes. I am a kindergarten teacher in Florida. My daughter's actually in kindergarten, but she does not go to the same school that I teach at. So that's a bummer, but
Is your classroom typical children?
I do have mainly typical children. We have some autistic children also, but we do not have like what is it called? An inclusion class. Like my daughter's in the special needs class. We don't have all special needs classes at my school, but we do have autistic children. So I have had autistic kids, just not as severe as my daughter. Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey into autism? Like what led you to a diagnosis, and about Alicy, who is
Yeah.
just absolutely beautiful. She's the
Aw,
cutest
thank
thing
you.
ever.
Thank you. So I guess it's kind of like most people's story. You know, she was typically developing until about 17 or 18 months. She had a lot of ear infections, and they said, oh, it's just because she's had ear infections that she's not talking and she's catching up. Like, imagine being underwater for the past 6 months and you can't hear anything. And so, you know, we believed it because
I was
I mean,
told the exact same thing.
yes,
Exact same thing.
but she's my second child. So I do have a son who's almost 10 and he does not have autism. So like I kind of was like, I don't know. Like I feel like she should be saying more. And she did have some words and then she completely stopped with her words. I still was like, I don't know. I need to look into this myself. And they kept telling me, oh, if she gets one more ear infection, we'll do tubes. And, you know, let's check her hearing. So we checked her hearing and I knew she could hear. She jumps when things happen and you clap behind her and she'll look. Like I knew she could hear. So we did all the things they wanted us to do. And sure enough, her hearing was fine. But she did get more ear infections. So she did end up getting tubes. And then they said, give her a couple months, let the tubes do their magic, and she'll probably start talking. And then we gave it a couple months and she didn't start talking. I remember we were at a craft show and there were bounce houses and my daughter was licking the concrete. And my mom came over and she's like, I think there's something not right. And then she's like trying to get a hold of my daughter's attention, and she kept saying, Alicy, Alicy, and she would not look at her, you know, like her, she didn't have any eye contact, none of those things. And she's like, I think you need to go to the doctor and find out more. And then I was like, no, it's not that. I totally blew it off. Like, no, she's fine. She's fine. She's fine. So we didn't get her diagnosis till she was 3. We did, however, have early steps. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but
Early intervention.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we got that before she was 3, but the diagnosis came right after her 3rd birthday. And then she started a ESE pre-K program, and she stayed at that school ever since. So I remember too, when I first got the diagnosis, I was like, we're not telling anybody. I don't want anybody to know. Like, I don't even want you to say the word autism. Like, I was devastated, and I cried, of course, obviously. And
Of course.
it was just
We
like,
all did.
yeah, it was just, like, I imagined pedicures and manicures and shopping and all the things. And I'm like, is that ever going to happen? And the talks about boyfriends and that kind of stuff. And so I definitely took, I want to say, a good 2.5 years to be able to like be okay with it. And I think it was like maybe like the beginning of last year that I was like, okay, like, she's still awesome. We can still go do things. It's harder, but like, hey, we just spread some awareness as we go.
Everywhere.
And
Exactly.
that was my thing too. I know Kate from Finding Cooper's Voice, I watched her a lot, and then there were times where I'd have to mute it because like I would see things I didn't want to see, like, I don't know, like Cooper regressing or something like that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that, because if I see it, then it could happen to me, and I don't want it to happen to me. So like, I remember thinking those things too. But then now, I like I said, within the last year, I feel like I've really come to terms with it, and I appreciate who she is and how she is. And now I just want people to get to know her and things about her. And I think that's why I wanted to write my book, was because, when we go to the playground, she wants to be with all the other kids. She wants to play with them. She wants to do stuff with them. And a lot of times, once my son says, oh, she doesn't talk, they're like, she doesn't talk. She's big. She doesn't talk. Like, my little sister who's over here too talks. And my brother or my son's like, yeah, she doesn't talk. And then sometimes they're okay with it and sometimes they aren't. So throughout my book, all of it is like, I want you to do this, even if this, like, every page is that. So
yeah, I think it's great. I really liked it a lot.
Thank you. And a lot, it honestly like came to me while I was driving home from my mom's house one day, and I just kind of texted it into my phone, and then I like tweaked it a little when I got home, and I was like, I feel like more people can relate to this, and it's not just for autism either, like the page that said, I want you to dance with me, even if I don't dance the same as you. The boy in the wheelchair in my book is actually a teacher friend of mine, her son. So like, some of the characters are real characters too. So it kind of has some special meaning with it too.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So Stacy, I want you to know that my daughter just turned 12, and I've written a lot about when she was diagnosed. First of all, I called it the A word. I'm gonna cry. I could not say autism. It took me a long time, about a year. I couldn't say it. And I've often said I felt like my hopes and dreams for her were ripped away. And I've often talked about nannies and petties and all those things, but I want, we do those things now. We do them now. So there's hope for that. There is hope. Yeah. Yeah. And just finding places that are accommodating. My nail lady comes in half an hour early before the salon opens. So the music's not blaring. There's not 50 people in there. We just make slight changes to make it work. And if we have to go in a busy place, then we prepare for that kind of thing. So don't give up hope on those manis and petties. You can get there.
What's funny? I got my nails done right when my book came out, and Alicy was going like this and look at it, and then she's like trying to take it off, like, what's that? I was like, oh, are you excited about nail polish? Maybe we need to start that.
Wait till she moved over to shellac, and you go from a $10 paint job to a $46 shellac job that your kid picks off.
Anytime I get my nails done, I show Alyssa when I come home, she goes, no.
No, thank you.
No. Exactly.
Stacy, say the name of your book because you haven't said it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
It's called I Want to Belong.
Yes, I Want to Belong, and
Yes,
people can find it on
on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yes,
I Want to
Amazon.
Belong on Amazon.
I love the illustrations. It's a
Thank you.
beautiful book, and it's like
Thank
so
you. Thank you.
eye-catching. I love it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
can you talk about like your process of like actually how you went and about getting the book written and published and all that?
Yeah, so I had no clue how to do it. And I happened to have a high school friend who had just published a book about her daughter, not related to autism at all, but she had just published one. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, how did you do it? We actually ended up hiring a book lady. I don't really know her title, but she kind of walks you through the process of writing your book, how to find an illustrator, how to find a graphic designer, and then how to upload it to Amazon. So I hired her and she literally walked me through the process.
And do you want to talk a little bit about, because you have a blog for your daughter,
Oh, I do.
correct?
Yes. I have a blog called Amazingly Autistic. It's all about my princess and our real life, our struggles, our good times. I'm about to post the sad face picture about the internet breaking. But I try to keep it real. So, I want to show the good, the bad, and the ugly of autism.
Yes.
And we try to, if I post a ugly the day before, I try to find a positive the next day, because I'm generally a positive person. I don't like to dwell on negative things, but they do happen, and I think that friends, family, and other people that are in my group, need to know that it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
all roses.
And I think it's important to educate, what it's like, and that's what it's like.
Yes.
I was gonna say about your book, that's what I like about it, is it's teaching kids like about how she would want to belong, or she does want to belong,
Mhm.
but these things might be happening and they might not understand them. And I just love that, because we have to educate our kids, because most adults can't understand that. But if we
Right.
can educate this generation of kids to think outside the box when someone's
Mhm.
having a meltdown or when someone's ignoring us, that might not be their intention. They just don't
Mhm.
know what else to do, or they can't control what they're doing. I just love that, especially now, like 1 in 44 kids is diagnosed with autism, and even more so with more neurodiversities. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
books like yours are so important to like teach kids, so that hopefully when they're adults, they'll be more accepting and understanding of our children when they're adults.
Right. A lot of my teacher friends are like, adults need this book too, Stacy. I'm like, well, I get that, but I mean, I don't see adults just going out to the bookstore and buying a children's book. They don't have any kids at home.
I think it's just as important for adults
No.
because they set the tone
Mhm.
a lot of times for children. So I was getting my hair, it doesn't look like it, but I was getting my hair done on Saturday, and I went to a new hairdresser, and we were you chat, the typical sit in the shoot the breeze or whatever. And she's a little bit older, and she said, oh yeah, yeah, back in my day, kids with autism, they were just weird and strange and odd. And she didn't mean it in a disrespectful way. She
Mhm.
just didn't have the lingo down, I guess, and she just didn't really understand the disability. And I was kind of twitching a little in the chair, but then also, trying to show the grace that she wasn't meaning any harm by it by any means. But let's not call our kids strange and odd and
Right.
weird,
And
right?
weird.
I think language matters, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just as important for adults to learn that, and that inclusion of children, maybe even more so than it is for the kids
Right.
in the beginning, to teach them.
Mhm. I agree. Yes.
I think that's one thing about more people writing. I mean, all of us have pages, they show a different view, but in children's books, when we were writing our books, we took it from our perspective. So, like our first book we wrote for my son who has a language delay, and then that changed as my daughter's nonverbal. Each person takes a perspective when they're writing things and putting it out into the world. And so, your perspective, which is great in your book, is like coming not only from a person who has a child who's nonverbal, but also a teacher who can look at like, oh, what are kids going to relate to? How are they going to understand this? And adults, as they're reading them, take in that information, because
Right.
not all kids can read
Yes.
yes, so they
Yeah.
can take in, even if it's not for adults, they can take in the information that is there, right?
Right.
So
And like you said earlier, like it's also, I think, helpful for not just autism, but like, a lot of kids that have ADHD have struggle in the classroom. Like I
Mhm.
especially like the page that has like the little girl like lying on the floor, kind of like having a tantrum,
Yeah,
because well, that is things that are like to other kids, like if they haven't been around that, they don't understand that. They don't understand why another child is doing that when that's not something typical for that age group, you know what I mean? So
right. Mhm.
I really like that visual in working in daycare and stuff like that. It's like there's always those few kids that have that hard time. They're not necessarily autistic.
Right.
They could be ADHD. They could just
Mhm.
be, emotionally dysregulated. Some of them grow out of it, some of them don't.
Right.
But I like that. Well, and then two people think of sometimes somebody who's autistic, they're thinking they have one visual because they saw this on TV or their friend's kid or some person that they know, maybe not in their personal family, but like a neighbor or an extended family member. So that's what they think autism is. And they
Right.
don't really realize there's like a whole nother side to it, and if you haven't been exposed to it, you really don't know that.
Yeah, and it's just such a spectrum. I have a friend, she has two children, two sons, they're both on the spectrum, and they're on the complete opposite. She has a son that is severe, and then she has a kid that's on the verge of being diagnosed with the savant syndrome. I mean, you can ask them, what is a million divided by 2 times 25 times, this kid spits it out.
Wow.
There's, I mean, spits, and here's me on the calculator. Ah,
He's like,
he's
what'd you
right.
say?
Right. And so, I mean, just about everything. And so, even just sitting at lunch with her two, and I have an autistic child,
Mhm.
just the difference in the two children, right?
Mhm.
It's just such a large spectrum.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I was
yeah.
gonna say it like back, I mean, I've talked about the illustrations before, but like the page Kimmy talked about with the girl having a meltdown on the floor, like that's something we can't, like, I'm not gonna photograph my child having a meltdown to show these kids, but it's something they will see. So it's kind of cool you have that like animated in a book because they'll see it.
Right.
And then it kind of clues them in how to like deal with it. And I think about that overall with these children's books. It's important to have children's books that showcase our kids and the things they use. Like I think about Tabitha's book. She has one with like an AAC device.
Mhm.
Like at my kids' school, they're not going to let the other kids play with that. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but they're so curious about it. Like I grew up with a reading disability and a writing disability, so I got to try all this cool different stuff. And the kids thought it was like so cool that I got to try this typewriter thing or I got to try this, but they weren't ever allowed to like look at it or see it. So these books where they can see those things and become comfortable with the world and be comfortable with like a friend who can only communicate through a device. Like
Right.
I just love the fact that like people like you and Tabitha are putting these children's books out there and that we're spreading the word and the awareness and helping these kids know from a young age, like it's okay. It's okay that
Right.
they learn different. I don't see a lot of books at the bookstore about kids on the spectrum or kids with disabilities.
no.
And I mean, I think and there's not a lot, but I think you'll see more of like a physical disability, like children in wheelchairs. But for our children, I mean, it truly is the invisible disability, right? So you don't, like with Tabitha's book, it's like the AAC. So it's nice because you see that device in the book, right? But yeah, there's just, you're right, there's not a lot out there, Jane.
And I think it's great for like homes that have siblings or even cousins. Like I know just in my house, we have my niece who, her and Alyssa are very close, but they're living with us now. So it's a different kind of closeness that they have. And Alyssa's very tolerant of her and very good, but like sometimes she's not. And my niece doesn't 100, she's 5. So she doesn't 100% understand. Like she just knows that like Alyssa has like her own set of rules. Like when we say, oh no, this is gonna happen this way, it happens this way. And she doesn't, like, she sort of gets it, but doesn't fully get it. Like, but I think these books are even good for children like her who like my kids had it from day one. You know what I mean? They had it from the time they were a newborn on.
Right.
She's kind of coming into it in a different way because being in the house is very different than like being around for vacations and holidays and stuff like that.
And dropping in to visit and going home, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So the newness is worn off.
I was thinking about this earlier. How do your son and your daughter interact with each other for our listeners? And what did he think of the book?
He actually wanted to be on every page of the book. Actually, tonight he was like, I love hanging out with my sister because the internet was out. So they were actually playing together. And I was like, oh, buddy, that's so sweet. He's like, she's just so much fun. But like, he just does what she does, basically. So he'll try to get her to play with things like he does, but most of the time she doesn't want anything to do with it. So he'll follow her lead. I just did like an interview with a news channel, and she asked me, like, how do you think your son is going to be when he gets older? Because he has a sister with special needs. And I was like, he doesn't even know he has a sister with special needs. Like,
Mhm.
he knows she has autism, but to him, it's not a special need. Like, it's his sister. Like he knows she can't talk and that she has autism, but he shares it proudly. So he's like an advocate for her everywhere we go. If people try to talk to Alicy when they're at the playground, he'll be like, oh, sorry, she can't answer you, but I can answer you. What's your question? And then they'll be like, why can't she answer me? And he's like, she doesn't talk. So he proudly tells people that, even if they don't ask. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to always say that. But it's cute. Like it's
It's
innocent.
amazing.
Yeah.
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 Are they
Yeah.
4 years apart? Is it 4 years?
3 years, 3 months. Yeah.
Like my kids.
Yeah.
My daughter's younger than my son. She's 3.5, well, almost 4, and he's 7. And she'll do that. She's already started speaking for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a take charge little lady.
Yes, she
I get in
is.
trouble a lot. She tells everyone everything, so I gotta be careful. What I
Yes.
say.
Well, it is. They have a different view, I think, until they really get out and start getting older, and then realize it's different in other people's families. Because that's how my kids
Yeah.
always were too. And even my nieces and nephews, like she was just Alyssa. It wasn't like they didn't see her as a disability or, anything like that. They just saw her as, like they obviously knew she couldn't talk, but besides that, to them she was just
Yeah.
their cousin
Mhm.
or just their sister. They have a very different way of thinking about things and looking at things than us, just
Mhm.
because they don't, that's all they know. So,
Right. Yeah.
and then this book was obviously inspired by your daughter because the little girl that kind of looks a little bit like her.
Yes. My
As soon
son
as I
is in
saw
there
it,
too. My son is sneaking in the picture too, right here. He was
Oh, he's
going
doing in
in
the
the
window.
window. Yeah.
oh. And then I know you guys are like, correct me if I'm wrong because it's vague, but the riding the bikes, that's something that you guys do as a
Yes.
family. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes. Yep. She is slightly obsessed with it. She wants to do it every day as soon as we get home. And I'm like, baby, I need a break. Like, can we just wait 10 minutes? But I mean, she will go for miles. I think the longest we've gone now is 3 miles. But I mean, she'll keep going. I'm like, no, we have to turn around because we have to go all that way back.
You're like, honey, we live in Florida. It's hot here.
Yeah.
So my question was, what's like your hopes and dreams for this book? Do you hope to write future books? Do you hope to get this book in like every school everywhere?
That would be the goal. Like I told my husband, I don't want to become, rich off of it. I want the word to get out, like I just want kids everywhere to be able to hear it and know how they treat other people matters. And that even if someone looks different than you or talks different than you, that you most likely want the same things. And, like I would love libraries to have it and schools and any kind of a teacher. I don't care, like what age. I just think it's something that everyone needs to hear. Kind of like what you guys said, it's really a really important topic. And now that our numbers, I know it's 1 in 44, but I feel like it's more than that. As coming from a teacher, I feel like it's more than that. But not even only autism, like you said, ADHD, any kind of special needs. There's more and more of them now. So I feel like it's something that kids really need the message of. As far as writing another book, I have always wanted to write a book, even before I had kids. That was always one of my dreams. But I probably will write more because now I know the how to do it. So I probably will do more. I just don't know about what yet.
So Stacy, everyone can get your book on Amazon, right?
Yes.
So Amazon.
And then where can we find you? Where can they find you on social media?
I have a Facebook page, Amazingly Autistic. I also have an Instagram, Autistically Amazing. It's the opposite. So either of those places.
Your cover photo on your Facebook page is beautiful. It's one of my
Oh, thank
favorites,
you.
by the way. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I love that photo.
We were doing the photos for the back of the book. They all turned out like super crazy, and I was like, hey, graphic designer, I need you to help me and make these look nice. So he cropped things out to make it look so perfect. I was like, man, I'm gonna need this guy for Mother's Day pictures and all the pictures.
Yes,
Yeah. We
exactly.
usually take 50 and there's one
Yes,
usable
you go through the
photo.
live video and you move to the right spot.
Yes. How do we get this to look
That's
good?
right.
Well, Stacy, this is great and such a great resource for people to learn about our kids, which I love, love, love always.
Thank
And
you
yeah,
for having me.
Yes, it
Thank
was
you
great
for
chatting
joining
with
us.
you. Yeah, thank you for coming on, and thank you for doing this and helping to spread awareness about inclusion. The more the better, the more the better. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you get a chance to grab Stacy's book, that would be amazing. We want to thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the table for this interview with Stacy Yildiz. Make sure to grab her book, I Want to Belong, on Amazon and give her a follow at Amazingly Autistic on Facebook. If you are enjoying the podcast, please make sure you're subscribed and rate and review us. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to contact us, you can at tablefor5podcast@gmail.com. We have new episodes every Monday. Join us next week as we start a new series called Life Hacks. We'll see you there. Bye.